Green.
Thank you for joining us this sultry afternoon. My name is Angel, King of Mediocrity Martinez, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Ed, the Galaxian, the man himself. Eddie, say what's up to the people.
What up, everyone? Hope everyone is safe more than ever now, at home, chilling.
With us today, special guest, our, our friend, our dear friend, Mr. Spenny in the house.
Yay!
Spenny, is it all right to call you that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. I wish that we were coming to you with a much better show. I wish that we were not coming to you with such energy today, but it seems that we've got something going on in the world that absolutely needs to be addressed. Something that I feel that we need to talk about, we need to discuss, and hopefully change a couple minds out there because there's definitely a lot going on in the world, and this is happening worldwide. That being said, what we're discussing today, we're going to discuss what lives matter. We're going to discuss movements that are happening right now and the different opinions of different people who are looking at it from their point of view. So hopefully we can all come to some sort of agreement and we don't get into a too serious of a of an argument here. We're going to try to keep it as peaceful as possible for everybody. But thank you very much for everyone that's joining us live on the chat right now. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Special Sunday edition for you guys of Layman's Word, where we talk all things we know absolutely nothing about. All right, guys. Clearly, there is some injustice going on in the world, and the world is reacting. Let's just go ahead and talk about the facts. A person by the name of George Floyd was recently murdered by police in I believe it was Minneapolis, and resulting from that death, the people are not happy with how things were carried out because it seems that it's the same old internal investigation. I believe I decided that he did not die of strangulation. In fact, they tried to put out a statement saying that he died from health complications because he wasn't healthy enough to be strangled for 9 minutes. Unfortunate.
Sorry for
Unfortunate
That's just...
that we would put that out there. But let me ask you guys, do you guys have any thoughts on the particular situation, what you saw from the video? First of all, have you guys seen the video, the full footage?
Yeah, I seen the 9-minute video. Just I think today I saw like a video with the full timeline for maybe like the whole 20 minutes before. It's a little bit fast forwarded, but you can see the whole situation play out up to that point where he gets restrained by three cops and one being on over his neck.
Yeah, I mean it's.
Let me ask you guys.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
No,
Eddie.
I was just gonna add that it's kind of hard not to at least see seconds of that video because it's flooded the internet. I mean, one of the reasons why everything is happening. That's pretty much all I was gonna say, Angel.
No worries, man. So do you guys believe that the actions were merited in any way, shape, or form to subdue the individual in that fashion? Was he resisting, so to speak, to have been taken down the way he was by, three, um, by three policemen?
No, I don't think that was all necessary. The footage that I've seen, it actually shows that they took him out of his car, sat him down in the curve, walked him across the street, still talked to him outside the patrol car, put him in the back of the patrol car, and then there's no more footage between him being in the patrol car and him being on the floor. But at this point, you've already had
There
him in
actually
custody. There's actually what?
There actually is footage released. Someone had cell phone footage from that scene from across the street where they put him in the car, and you can see a police officer actually going inside and, for lack of a better term, roughing him up a little bit. The officer looks like he's throwing a couple punches while he has him in the back seat.
The point being, whatever happened in that back seat, whether he was resisting at that point or they just wanted to get their
Correct.
licks in, the point is he was already in the back of that patrol car. So there's no reason for him to come out or be dropped out of the patrol car onto the floor, let alone have 3 people on him. He's not even moving. I mean, he might be struggling a little bit that we can't notice, but at the end of the day, with 2 people on him, I don't think he should be able to move, let alone needing 3 people to just subdue somebody who you already been controlling for 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You had the man sit down, stand up, walk across the street, sit down, and then all of a sudden he starts resisting, and you can't just close the door? What did he say? What did he do for you to have to stay in there with him? What other business did you have? He was already restrained. He was already in your patrol car. You know? The only thing that I've seen is supposedly that they called the ambulance before they put him in the patrol car. Okay, that's fine. Leave one door open, close the other one, and still contain him while the ambulance comes.
Right.
What caused it to get to the floor? You know?
That's interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up because, looking at it, certainly there's always developing stories with anything like this because of all the people that are around, and there are so many witness accounts that don't get taken, aren't exactly put out in the light right away because people are scared. People are scared to tell their truths. People are scared to post things up. Police officers are very quick to seize all evidence and information right away. Certainly, if you're seen recording, they want your ID, they want your address, they want everything about you so that they can come harass you later in time and, seize said footage. So I understand why, kind of a story like this will develop, slowly. But, looking at it for what it is, just from my eyes, I see a couple things. I feel like like you said, what was the reason for bringing this man back out and putting him on the floor like that? If he was already subdued, already handcuffed, and already in the backseat of the squad car, what other steps were there other than, we're past Miranda. At that point, it's time to, get in the car and drive him back to the station. But for some reason, they decided to torture this man a little longer, and publicly, for that matter. There was a lot of officers that showed up surrounding, the arresting officer. I believe his name is Derek Chauvin. I'm really not sure how to pronounce his name.
He was backup.
Correct. And it's interesting to me because if you watch, I watched the footage and I watched the moment when the EMTs came in to check on the body. And if there's anything that I've ever seen when it comes to EMTs, you'll notice that any single solitary time that an ambulance is called in, the first thing that they do once they get to the victim, right, or the person who's in trouble, the absolute first thing that they all do is check vitals. They check vitals. You absolutely have to check vitals before you can do anything, before you move them, before anything. See if they're responsive, anything like that.
Right.
When these gentlemen arrived, if you guys watch carefully, the first thing they did was grab the body and drag it over. They dragged it.
They manhandled
like
the
it was a piece of meat. They did not have any care whatsoever in moving the body to the gurney. I'll give you one more that's pseudo-suspicious. Watch that video again, and you tell me that those EMTs are not wearing bulletproof vests. Tell me they're not. It is striking to me to see that they are that heavily equipped for being EMTs. And the other thing is that since they are EMTs, they have really good processes to move a 200-pound body from one place to the next safely. They did not do that. So a couple things there that are they're a big red flag, in my opinion, is that they were not careful with the body or the victim.
They didn't follow procedures.
Didn't check for vitals. They weren't following protocol. There's no procedure there. These guys are untrained who were on video. This
I would have to go back and see about the body armor, but that's one thing I noticed too because unfortunately I see my grandma get picked up a couple times already, and it's always like a communication between EMTs. It's never a get off, get her on, and get out.
Yeah.
It's get off, secure the body, communicate with your partners as far as lifting the body and how you're gonna lift it. Is she gonna stand up or are you gonna just put her on the gurney?
Yeah.
So it's a process that takes longer than 10, 20, 30 seconds because they got off. The guy didn't even get off and they weren't even checking the body. The guy got off the neck and it was just like drag him. They manhandled that body. But
Correct.
I would have to go back and
Correct.
see what Angel was saying about the body armor. I did not notice that.
Never mind.
It's just the whole situation was bad. Like you could notice that he was lifeless, and you didn't even try to do nothing there, and then to check his vitals. Or
Not just that. I'll touch on the whole suspicious about the ambulance. The line I work, the company I work for, there's a lot of injuries, right? As you would imagine, anything that potential bad sprain, they come down with what looks like a toolbox of fucking equipment. If you look at this video, dude just comes down,
just with the gurney.
yeah,
Pick him up and go.
Like, all right, we already know, yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe we can get a little more into depth a little later, as far as conspiracy theories. But that's one thing I noticed, video about the video you were talking about, as far as the paramedics EMTs looking a little suspicious there.
And there's no reason even from the call, because the call, according to some reports, is the cops receive a call of forgery in progress, which is not a violent crime, nor does it insinuate that this person is going to attack you upon confronting them. And then you go through the whole timeline of him sitting down, him standing up, walking across the street, getting put in the cop car, so he's compliant as it is. But then,
absolutely,
maybe they knew each other, right?
Complacent, for sure.
Maybe they knew each other, right?
You never know.
And we'll get to
That's
that.
another thing that people are saying.
Yeah, we can get to conspiracies at the end if you're up for that, Angel.
Well, I think that would be
I'm always up for it.
I
Dude.
think that'd be more of
Shout out.
less of a conspiracy and more of a fact, right? Because, I mean,
But that's I don't want to get into it now because I have counters for that.
all right.
Yeah, as you were, Mr. King of mediocrity.
Well, so let's talk about a couple things that are going on as a result of what happened to the police officers involved. To my understanding, the police officers that were surrounding, Officer Chauvin were fired, I believe, as well as Chauvin himself. But because the coroner did not declare that this man died of asphyxiation, there are no charges on these police officers, and that is sparking outrage throughout the country. The people are upset. The people have mobilized. They've gotten together and they've decided that this is enough. They're everywhere right now. Obviously, it started in Minneapolis, and we had a movement here a couple nights ago in Los Angeles. DC is up in arms. Seattle. Just to give you guys an idea of how big this is, I've got 9 other countries that are joining the protest. Berlin, Toronto, London, Ireland. We've got Wales, Manchester. I mean, there are just so many other countries, other cities around the globe that are jumping in and standing up for what's right. Now, I'll ask you guys, what do you guys think about the movement and where it is right now, at least locally? Let's start locally. How do you feel about it
What movement?
right now, right in our backyard?
What movement? What do you mean by movement? Because I don't think what's necessarily going on is a movement. You can see certain organizations stepping up, but there's a lot of things going on outside of these organizations that aren't necessarily for a cause, or they don't understand what overall the cause is.
Right.
So you using the word movement is a very big umbrella of a lot of things that you're putting in the same category that is going on not only in our country, but like you said, being shown and being displayed in other cities around the world.
Well, I'm gonna use the worst paraphrasing you've ever heard, but one of my favorite I guess personalities you would say is Trevor Noah, right? And he came out talking about how in society it's kind of like an unwritten contract, right? A society, and near the top are the police because they enforce those rules and everything, right? So even though people might not think that way, but like what their minds proceeded when they saw that was the contract, that society was ripped up right in front of them. So you want to go out and you want to judge people out there for looting and doing whatever they are, but dude, they just saw that metaphorically that contract ripped up. This they're supposed to protect and serve, and everybody's seen those videos. You cannot avoid them, and they literally saw this man just take somebody else's life and then not lose your job. Now he gets to collect $600 extra a week as well. I mean, for me, it's how I feel about it. I don't have. You're not gonna see me go out there and do it, but I'm not opposed. I'm not against it because I get it. Once I heard that, because I was really in the fence. I'm like, man, that's kind of dumb. Like, why would you just burn down your own city? But when I heard it that way, I'm kind of like, well, I guess that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And if this is the way this is what's gonna make them listen, then so be it.
For me, I'm divided on how to explain it to people because the situation, going to what you were saying, is you're showing people what's possible. At the end of the day, we're animals, man. We're animals. We're just socially contracted, like you said, to follow certain rules,
right?
Because they're not socially accepted in reality. Let's be honest, all of us. And then when you start showing people what's possible, what you can get away with, it becomes a bigger problem. Because honestly, after this happened, because this happened on May 25th, Monday, May 25th, Tuesday and Wednesday, you saw protests. You saw people peacefully, being against this, people speaking up against this. But then Wednesday overnight to Thursday, people started breaking stuff and nothing happened. You started busting up cops and nothing happened. You started burning down buildings and nothing happened. Stores started getting breaking into. Huh? Say that again?
I said, but who's doing the burning?
See, at first you can see how it could have been towards a cause, because unless you make them feel the same fear that you fear, they won't understand you. And cops feel like they're untouchable, or at least certain cops that are in these situations. You even us that may have countered cops, right away they already feel like they're above you, and they're gonna use everything in their authority to belittle you or to try to control you.
Right.
We already know that just from our situations, which we all have had, even a parking ticket, even sorry, not a parking ticket, but like a driving violation. They make you try to feel right away that they're in charge.
Right.
So you and I maybe don't know exactly how bad it is when cops roll up on you all the time, already with weapons drawn. I had never had that experience before.
I haven't either, even with my tattoos.
And now you have maybe 5-6 people in your own family that have had this happen. You're hearing this around the country that's had this happen. These people aren't going to understand you unless you make them feel that same pressure.
We're seeing a video in our backyard just happening for tinted windows, right?
Tinted windows. So I didn't mind it in the beginning because I think they were expressing their anger at the right situation. But when you started looting, you're not there for any cause. You're there for yourself at that point.
Right.
And one thing that I've been seeing, one thing that I've been seeing too is I've been going on Snapchat and I've been dropping into other cities around the world or around the country. And in 3 or 4 cities, people that are protesting peacefully are corralled and are told they're going to get arrested, and they get arrested. While the people looting, it's a free-for-all.
Right.
Get what you can while you can and get out. Nobody's gonna stop you. But if you're there trying to voice your opinion, be heard, you're gonna get corralled and you're gonna get dealt with.
Yeah.
And that further supports the narrative that they're trying to discredit the movement. That's what I was talking about. Like, there's people out there that are legitimately trying to put out a message, and
Yes.
there's people who are getting caught up in the riffraff.
I believe that
and completely misguided.
Yes.
There's a lot of angst out there, and people don't know how to move forward and how to act. There's so much footage out there of people, and I'll just say people. I'm not going to say what kind of people, but there's so much footage of people setting these younger people up to do bad things. I've seen anything from a random stack of bricks conveniently placed outside of a police station to a gentleman breaking windows and then walking away from the scene as if he hadn't done any of it. There is footage of people handing money to young black men to buy things so that they could have during their protests, being told to go rip up benches, being instructed to do so by people, and it's crazy. The older people, some of the older people that I'm watching do this, I mean, they're not even part of this movement. Anything that I've seen, black people on the front line are trying to be peaceful as much as they can. But it's like anything. Once the violence starts rolling in, once the first window is broken, the first rock is thrown, it's like you said, we're animals. We're just going to want to, our anxiety immediately goes up. We start to, feed on what's going on around us that some of us can't resist. So it's unfortunate that it's being painted that way, and it's sad because it's discrediting everything that people are fighting so hard for.
Yeah.
There are so many people being reaffirmed with their beliefs, with their current beliefs, that these people don't deserve the same rights as everyone else, and that's fucking sad. It's sad.
To go to Angel's point really quick, if I can, I would like to shout out somebody. Something that I found a couple days ago was some guy in Minneapolis called Marvin Applewhite, who started a cleanup during the protest GoFundMe. And from what I've seen, I mean, the person is actually, they have pictures of them picking up actually the next day and everything like that. When I found it was a couple hours old. They were asking for $5,000 just to have like gloves and trash bags, and up to date they already raised $47,000.
Damn, that's what's up. What was the name
amazing.
again?
His name is Marvin Applewhite.
Marvin Applewhite. Hey, so Angel, real quick, I want to get back to that too. But you're talking about what people fought for, and I guess you're in layman's terms, you're saying that they're ruining it for the rest of them, for what they fought for. But history has shown, bro, there's no right way to protest. There's no rules to protest now, and I'm taking this from someone else. I don't remember where I got it from, but like MLK, the peaceful protest, had nothing worked.
Yeah.
Fast forward, fucking Kaepernick taking a knee, didn't work. That's not the right way. People were talking shit, and now they're doing this, and of course, correct. I mean, this is extreme, but this is why it's happening, dude. There's no proven like type of protest that has worked. So you say they ruined it for the rest of them, but I mean, history's shown that nothing's worked. So I mean,
nothing has worked for them,
right?
Meaning other minorities, because I'd be, I think I feel some type of way not expressing how as Hispanics, during peaceful protests we've actually advanced. That's a whole different topic to get into, but there is examples of us advancing with peaceful protest as Hispanics. The thing is, that's the same thing that we don't really notice how impacted we have been through peaceful protests, and it doesn't work for other minorities, not just black people, but Asians and other ethnicities, Native Americans. That doesn't really work as well,
Right.
There's a whole civilization that was here before the United States that just got wiped out.
Yeah.
You know, we got wiped out, but little by little, we kept fighting for our little pieces here and there. And through peaceful protests, we've gotten what we needed. But, you know, it's not the same for other races, for other minorities. So I don't think we can fully understand that anger, you know, that me against the world feeling, because they're not as close as our races either. You know, some races aren't as close as us, because we might make fun of each other all day long and talk shit to each other, but when we really need something, I can actually call on family members, you know, on friends.
Yeah. Hence
you know?
how I got these White Claws.
So it's just it's what do you do when you've been loud and nobody pays attention? You know, what do you do when you try to use the law in your favor and it still doesn't work? What do you do when the person that's supposed to abide by that law breaks that law and then just continually gets away with it? Where do you go from there?
Right.
Where do you go from there? On top of being quarantined for 2 months, not being able to go see your friends, not being able to live your regular life. What do you do? What do you do? That's a serious question. What do you do?
That's what's it.
What
Sorry,
do you
guys.
do?
So that's what's interesting to me about everything is what do you do, right? What are the answers? And no one really has that. No one really, you know, you talked about being able to peacefully protest, you know, as Latinos, and you know how successful it is or how successful it has been for us in our past. But I don't think we've ever experienced as a group, you know, the type of things that, you know, black people have experienced.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Like we haven't experienced that stuff.
I agree.
I mean, you just look at this. You just look at the last, you know, couple years. Like just a couple names off top. You know, you see Ahmaud Arbery earlier this year got gunned down because he was running in a white neighborhood.
Right.
The guy was just jogging, and he was brought down by some people that didn't like him being in their neighborhood.
And it took 2 months to charge
Taylor,
him.
You take Breonna Taylor, who was in her own fucking house and was raided and shot dead, and she was a police officer. Like that's not right. That's not okay. You got what is it? Eric Garner. Eric Garner suffered a similar fate outside of a store because he was trying to sell cigarettes, and the guy got choked out in the same degree. Or Philando Castile being shot right on live. The guy was shot live on Facebook, and they showcased it. So I have never seen any of my people go through that, and so no matter how like you know, black people are reacting at the moment, I cannot at all understand what they're going through. The best I can do is try to empathize. That's the best that I can do, and understand that they need support and they need help. And maybe, you know, looking at everything that's in the streets right now, it's like you said, right? All the looting and mobbing, all that stuff. It made you kind of, you didn't believe, you were into it, like you said. I might be getting your verbiage incorrect, but you said you were about it, and then you started seeing all the looting, and you started seeing things getting broken, and then it kind of disinterested you. And that's tactful. It's tactful, and it's crazy how divided everybody is about what's going on. I put a post up today, just one, and the amount of people that, you know, kind of want to argue with me, I find it funny that no one's arguing with me publicly on the post that I put on. Instead, they're choosing to go direct message and having this conversation behind closed doors. Why? It's out there. I put it out there. Have the conversation with me out in public. What, are you ashamed of your viewpoint?
To clarify, I would like to clarify, because I think it was perceived wrong. But I was never gonna go down there. I was never gonna go down there because my voice isn't loud enough. I am very much a private person. If you know me, you know we have good times. But for me to put myself out there, you know, I'm not like that. So I know I'm not a big enough voice to be down there and report on anything or show you anything that you can't see on your own. And it's not in my best interest, considering what's going on in my life right now. And I was right. I mean, as fucked up as that may sound, I was right. You can go, like I said on Snapchat, every single night this week that the protest has been in downtown LA. The people that are peaceful and really trying to be heard, which the crowd that I would want to support, has been corralled and arrested.
Right.
Those numbers aren't going to matter in the long run. Nobody's going to care that you got arrested at that protest.
Right.
It's only going to affect you personally, and you're going to put yourself in a deeper hole individually.
Yep.
That makes you less likely to actually help the cause when you're really needed and when you're really called upon. I'm not going to go down there and loot. I made a joke, but I was kind of serious with my friends over a chat yesterday that if I were to go down there, it would be for my interests and I would be looting. But I'm above that. I really am. I don't need to go down there and take something that's not mine just because I can't afford it. I don't need to do that. I don't need to take advantage of this situation because it's bigger than that. So that's why I had no business down there from the beginning. And I may be wrong. Some people might see it as, oh, well, you don't value your voice. But who am I going to reach? The people I'm going to reach, I'm talking to right now.
Right, exactly.
You know? What, maybe another 10, 15 people that I'm not going to get my side through because they're so hard-headed. You know, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to go down there and do something that's outside of my morals just because of the situation, you know? I'm not going to do that. I don't need to do that. What else am I going to go down there for? Get pepper sprayed? What are you going to go down there for? You know, I can understand some people are frustrated. I don't have that pain, so I can't relate to that pain. I understand your pain, you know? I just wish, this is my personal bias, you know? Make them feel the same pain you feel, right? You feel people of certain races are privileged in this country, but you're taking it upon your own community to feel this pain that you're feeling. I think that's where it's wrong. You know, if you're really trying to have somebody else understand you, you're already doing the deed. Might as well make them feel the pain, make them feel the pressure, you know, make them feel the fear. You're already doing it. Why do it to your own people? Do it in the communities where they're going to actually stop and consider, fuck, we need to change this.
Right.
We don't need this coming back to us. They're doing it to you?
No, you're absolutely right. But I think
that's my biased opinion. You know?
At the same time, those people that live in those particular communities where they care, those people need to come out and protest as well.
Also, you know, some people don't need. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's fine.
Some people don't even be down there. Something that my girlfriend showed me was a video of a 9-10-year-old girl getting pepper sprayed. Why are you taking your children down there?
Yeah.
You know, you're not doing your child a favor getting pepper sprayed. What, they're gonna have a cool story to tell when they're 30, 40 years old? Like, what was, you know, why would you want to put your child through getting pepper sprayed just because you think that she should be done there? I mean, see it as you want. If that child grows up to maybe be an activist, maybe it was worth it. But at the moment, you have more people like that. And let's be honest, not all these kids that are down there are going to grow up and do that.
Right, right.
As much as you want to be hopeful and have faith in it, it's really not going to happen. How many of these kids that are getting pepper sprayed and shot with pellet guns going to really grow up and be like, hey, I was there, now I'm trying to, you know, advance the race? Let alone they weren't black.
Yeah,
they weren't Hispanic. Oh. They weren't Asian. They weren't a minority.
Brian mentioned that. Brian says that Rodeo Drive should be next. Well, Santa Monica got hit today. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I'm not gonna advocate where you should go, but you're obviously against a certain type of people.
It was a loophole. I was reading off the comments. You know, I'm trying to, you know, not have it come straight from the source over here. I was reading the comments. So
who was that?
He's already banned. You can't find him. He's banned from all social media.
He's banned from Twitter
and Facebook now.
Too many facts in the world, huh, Brian?
That was his fault. Hey, well, Brian, whenever you want to come on, you can come on here and call anybody a cunt. We won't take you off the show. We promise.
If anybody in the comments has an honest solution, something that you think would work, I would want to hear it. You know, I would really want to hear that. What can possibly be done? Angel, do you have any idea what can possibly be done? What solution? Where do you go from here? What do you do? If you were the police chief, if you were the police chief in LA, what's your next step?
The bottom line is that it's already too late for the correct action. If you look at Miami, look at Seattle, there's even a sheriff in Michigan who's done it. But what you do is you stand with the people that are protesting. If you're with them and there is no line, there is no animosity. You help protect them. You help protect what's going on around them, and you keep a peaceful protest. The idea is that you're supposed to help to dissipate these situations, not to instigate. And and that's what becomes difficult. It becomes very, very hard because you're meeting animosity with more animosity,
Right.
and that's difficult. If there was no one to throw bottles at, if there was no one out there in riot gear, I guarantee you that the people would not be taken advantage like they are.
I disagree.
There are so many places. There's proof in other places. Look at Miami. Miami's PD came out, no guns drawn, no SWAT, no anything. They stood with their people, kneeled with their people, marched with their people, and it was great. They did the same thing in Seattle. Same goes for Michigan. It can happen. It can happen. And so what I'm saying is that at this point, it's too far gone, especially here in Los Angeles, because they've already dispatched the United Nations.
No, let me ask you something though, Angel. Right now that you said
Sure.
it's too far gone, and I'm trying to get to some of the comments. Shout out to everyone that's commenting. Rudy says here, and I want to ask you if you feel the same way. He says if it makes, if it changes things, is it worth it? Say all this, basically burning our city down, everyone burning their own cities down, and it ends up making that change. Is it worth it?
Is it worth? Are you telling me that? Rephrase the question for me?
Because you said
you
said
everything
it's
that
got
is going on right now is worth what? Is worth ending systematic racism?
yeah.
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's worth it. Absolutely, it's worth peace of mind for every single one of my family members and friends affected to be able to walk out of their home every day and not have to feel the pressure of thinking that they might never come back home. Absolutely, it's fucking worth it. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's worth it. The businesses will cash in on their insurances and they'll be back,
Yeah.
even the small ones. And if the small ones don't have insurance, I'm sorry,
That's their fault.
but they will recover. They will recover. There's a reason why those things are out the way they are. It's so that you can recover. Things.
Yeah, but I think it's still a big issue because they still have to rebuild, you know, and some might not be able to rebuild as strong or with the same faith in that same community. So it still creates a rip between you as a businessman and me as or somebody else as a consumer, you know. There's other instances though where people are just local businesses that are trying to be protected are having not casualties, but they're having violence. There's videos of people trying to protect their businesses and getting rocked for it. Like at that point, what's the point at that point? You really want to wild out against a building, and you obviously see somebody that owns that property or owns that business ask you not to do it, that they're with you, but just don't fuck up their shit, and you're still like, well, first of all, fuck you,
Right.
and then now fuck your business. That's the part I don't understand. That's the part I can't get behind or can't understand. Don't justify it because you're gonna get that insurance money.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Angel. The floor's yours.
Excellent. So I think one thing that needs to be made 100% clear is I believe that a lot of officers around the world, or actually here in America, I should say, they're overworked. Let's say that. We'll start there. These guys are putting in 12-hour shifts, 4 days a week, and I cannot imagine what it's like personally. Since COVID started, I've been doing my own set of 12-hour, 14-hour shifts every other day. And by that 12th hour, boy, my mind is scrambled. I I am just trying to keep my eyelids open, fueling my body with caffeine, and probably not making the best decisions at the end of my day. That is a fact. That is a fact. So a lot of times when you see these guys, they're agitated already. They're being put in dangerous situations, which makes them very unsettled. And when people don't do exactly what they want them to do, that's when everything gets out of control. The unfortunate part is that some people are complying, and these guys are on a power trip or get in a certain mindset, and they still take it too far. A good answer for me personally is that you run a police department like you run a fire department. You let these guys have a headquarters where they can peacefully sit and stay. And then when there's an issue that somebody felt compelled enough to call about, they get dispatched. They come out, assess the situation, and decide if more force is necessary or not. I think that's how you take care of that issue. For me personally, because
It's a tough way
you,
to look at it, but you sign up for the job. You know what it's supposed to be.
at the
You know
end of
what
the
it's going to
day,
be. You get paid by the same people that you are trying to have this authority figure against. You know, these are the people that you actually literally were sworn to protect and to serve, not to manhandle, not to manipulate, not to intimidate, not to invoke fear into, but to protect and serve. It, at least in Los Angeles, it says it on the police door of every single cop car that you see on the streets. That is literally their slogan. That is their oath. And yet you're taking advantage of that oath because you signed up for a 12-hour shift that now you don't want to do. We've all been there. I can't, of course their job is stressful, but if you follow it by the book, it's the easiest way to get through something sometimes. At the end of the day, if you just
so
follow a set
my
of steps, you can get through something very quicker rather than you looking at your clock through the whole process. Right? If you sometimes just concentrate on the process, I need to do this, 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 instead of I need to do this, I'm off in 30 minutes. I got to do this, I'm off in 28 minutes. I got to do this, I'm off in 27 minutes. It creates it to be a lot longer. Right. That's what you signed up for. If you don't like what you signed up for, go be a private detective. Go change your, be a security guard, be a bodyguard, do something else with your life. Don't affect the people that you're sworn to protect.
I would just say that these guys, first of all, aren't robots, and nobody's perfect, and it's a very difficult job. And you're absolutely right. You are right. They did sign up for this job. This is what they wanted to do. But how many people get into a job or go to school for a career that they so desperately want, and then when they finally get in the door, they sign up, they start receiving that paycheck, they're there every day, it's not exactly the way they imagined it would be. So you could imagine that opinions would change, attitudes would change, and especially certain experiences would allow you to change. Like no one is expecting, sudden change. It's not going to happen out of the blue, but I honestly feel that a lot of these situations could be prevented, like you said, with training. You're talking about training right now. Everybody has training. You're supposed to take your steps. You're supposed to do the things that you're supposed to do. My point is at the end of a 12-hour shift, right, when you've got a half hour left on the clock, you're not going to make the best decisions. And if the guy that you happen to talk to is giving you a little bit of lip, it might get a little aggressive. And it's unfortunate, but these are the perfect cocktail for what continues to happen over and over again. So what is the answer, right? What is a solution? What can we do? Systematically, what can we do?
I think you can
I believe that maybe... Go ahead.
I think you can start by actually looking closer or looking at it closely when it comes to individuals like Derek. Because looking at his record, at his track record, the man has been on the force, 19, 20 years?
Right.
And he had like 18 open or 18 closed complaints over 19 throughout his career. What are these complaints about? this person works security. You know, I think if you're gonna have cops, they're gonna have off duty jobs like that. You got to see the instances or the incidents, sorry, that happen when they're bodyguards. You know, one of the things is that this guy was a bodyguard at a nightclub, and the owner or the presumed owner of that club at the time has come out and said that, you know, on certain nights where they had a certain demographic, he would be a little bit extra with his authority. You know, and over little stuff, as a cop, he would call 5 or 6 patrol cars, which the owner themselves saw unnecessary. So you know, maybe have a system where it looks into these people a little bit closer.
Yeah. So,
You know, not on top of that, but you have somebody carrying a gun who's on their toes, like Angel said, 12 hours a day. You can't just expect them to be all right after a career that's in double digits.
so all that, you know, all that extra money that apparently is going to go towards that, would you put it through, like, you know, towards their, like, psych evaluations, you know, training, actually, broader, I guess, answer.
I think Angel had a point with the sense of more of a community. I think, and I am speaking just as somebody looking from the outside, I feel like firefighters are closer knit because of that, because you have a closer, like, tight knit community. And I can only attest to that through playing sports, because when you're at practice with somebody day in and day out, and you see that they're trying just as hard as you kind of create that camaraderie, you know. And cops, I think they're very secluded, very solitary, because they're either in a cop car by themselves, on a motorcycle by themselves, or they're with one other person.
Right.
And I don't think it creates an environment where they can be tough for 12 hours and be on their toes and be strong for 12 hours, and then all of a sudden talk to a stranger about how their day went. You know, I don't think that's possible for them, and it's not available to them. I don't know if that's a solution, but I think that would make a big difference too. You know? Because who do you talk to as a cop? You can't even go home and tell your wife, like, "Oh, I'm investigating this or that. You know, took advantage of 12 girls so far, or this guy that killed 12 people so far." You can't even go home and tell your spouse that. You know?
Right.
So what are you doing for yourself? And not all cops are bad. You know, I come across cops that are very nice, that actually try to help you, that let me go on shit that I shouldn't have been let go. You know? And there's other ones that were just dicks from the beginning, and because I knew I was right, they had to let me go. Still gave me a ticket, but fuck it, a fine over being arrested, I'll take that any day.
No, it's true.
But not everybody has those advantages. Not everybody has a way to get out of that.
So I'll definitely, let's get one thing right, because I want to make sure to address Rudy in the chat. Rudy says that if you make a mistake at work, you get disciplined and might lose your job. When you make a mistake at work, it takes a life. You should be held accountable. Absolutely. Officers should be held accountable for their actions. That is a fact. Yes. What I am proposing is simply to reduce the amount of situations where they get themselves into that sort of trouble. So absolutely, I agree, Rudy. If you make a mistake, you should definitely be suspended without pay. You shouldn't be able to collect a check while you've done something wrong, sitting at home while they think about what to do with you. When most of the time they're just going to put you back, behind a desk, and now you don't have to patrol and you still get your salary. Some of these guys are being let off, being put into early retirement, given full pensions, and I think that's difficult to deal with. If you do something that is a crime, whether you have a badge or not, you should be prosecuted as such, and that's justice. That's what it should be.
And I think Rudy's kind of tying.
I don't know if you guys can hear that. Can you guys hear that?
No, I think
I
think Rudy can.
So
I think what Rudy is saying can tie in to what I'm saying. And
sorry, man. Go ahead.
I think he could tie into what I'm saying. Yes, if you commit a mistake at work, you get disciplined, right? But how severe in your job, in my job, in Rudy's job, does it have to be where you have to get sent home? If you commit an error at work, what do? They correct your error, they send you back to work, and a good manager, a good supervisor, a good owner is supposed to give you further training to fix these issues, to fix these concerns, so you don't do it again. And if you still You know, after so many times that you do the same mistake, you're still doing it. You don't understand that it's upon that owner, that manager, that supervisor to deal with you whether they should terminate you or not. If somebody is getting
Right.
if somebody's been on the force for a double digit amount of years, over 10 years, 15 years, you have so many complaints about this person, you know, they have numerous issues at their other job that you need to look at it closely, to be honest, right? Even if you want to keep this person on the force or in your business, if you're outside of the police force, you're gonna have to train them. You're gonna have to deal with the issue to change these habits. And if they don't change, you got to cut ties with them. So if you want to use that example, yes, Rudy, I think it's correct. But those people need to be educated on how to do their job properly. You know, you go to cadet school as a cop in the beginning of your career. You've been on the job for 10, 15 years. Those values, those ideas have changed. You know, in any job, if you last in a job over 2 or 3 years alone, your mindset change of how you approach that job, how you're going to do that job, because you know your shortcuts, you know how to get things done easier, faster. A cop that's been on the force 10, 15, 18, 19 years should know all the ins and outs. Right. And if you don't reevaluate these people every so often, you're going to let them set in their ways and expose who they really are in this scenario in a bad way.
That kind of brings up the good point that I've always thought about when it comes to having a driver's license. First of all, I think it's way too easy to get a driver's license. Way too easy to get a driver's license. And as you get older, it's way too easy to keep your driver's license. Some of these older folk should not be driving anymore. They shouldn't be on the street, and they should be tested more frequently because of that. It's just what it should be. They get to a point where, you know, they can barely see over the wheel. They don't have the strength to control the car the way they should, or the reaction time. And so it's one of those things that you're talking about. If you have someone on the force, you know, still on the beat, out there on the streets, doing what they're doing, what they've been doing for years, and they're out of touch. You have people out there whose the majority of their human experience is tense. The majority of their human experience is tense. And especially if they're a lone ranger like you talked about before.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're hanging out in their car. Yeah, they're in an air conditioned. Yeah, they've got internet, right? You can say whatever you want about their idle time. That's fine. But when it comes down to it, most of their human interaction for the better part of their day always starts with the problem. And they need to be better at problem resolution. That's the most important thing, problem resolution.
One thing that I think is misunderstood about cops is after so long, their police uniform is not their uniform. Their regular clothes becomes their uniform. You know, that's one thing that us as civilians will never understand. Because after so long, you're no longer a civilian being a cop.
Right.
You're a cop who pretends to be a civilian. And that takes a toll on you, you know? Anybody that's had stressful situations, it bothers you, you know? Even as a parent, you know, you always have to worry about your kids. Imagine being like that. You have to worry about your kids and you're still worrying about your own life. Like literally, you don't even know if you're going to go home that night. And that's on 24/7 for them. And it doesn't justify what happens, but it just goes back to the fact that they might need their own help too. You know, this episode is about all lives matter, and cops' lives matter too.
Right.
You know,
right.
Of course there's bad apples, of course, and that's the ones that we have to weave out. But if we're not even trying, it's never going to happen, because there are good cops out there. There are people that genuinely care, and I know that because I've come across people of different professions that you can just tell care about the person next to them. And it should be no different for cops. Mm-hmm. We just have to identify those people that we don't want with a gun and a badge. And we're not going to find those people unless we're asking questions, unless we're trying to help these people. Because in reality, and I firmly believe that after so long, they're not civilians who dress up or who dress to be cops. They're cops that pretend to be civilians. And if you can't understand that, then, I mean, I don't know what else. We can't understand that.
I don't know. I don't know if you took it from somewhere else, but that was pretty deep, man. I'm not gonna lie.
It's
no, that's right. He has a that's a valid, absolutely valid point. They say what you do defines you. And whatever profession you tie yourself to, that's who you become. It's who you are. And some of these guys are so used to being that when they are in their civilian, outfits out at a supermarket, they have no choice but to keep an open eye. I can only speak from the previous profession I had, working in a restaurant. I can no longer comfortably be in a restaurant ever. From working in one for so many years and paying attention to all the details throughout the day of my entire shift, knowing where things are, who's where this table's at, right? Who's got drinks, where's food? Those kind of things went through my mind for so many years while being in, the doors of a restaurant. Every single solitary time for the rest of my life, when I walk into a restaurant, that's the only thing that's going on. I try to enjoy myself with the company that I keep, but honestly, I've always got one eye looking the other way, just trying to see what's going on. It's just a fact. So when you talk about an officer being out there in the world, they're constantly looking for things that they're drawn to. They're constantly observing. How do you just turn that off? It's difficult. You can't. It must consume you. So I imagine that it's more and more difficult. I'm not saying, please, I hope anyone listening doesn't think that we're condoning any of the actions of the officers in Minneapolis,
No,
or
no, no.
in the case of, or in the case of any of the recent deaths. Absolutely
No,
not.
absolutely not.
But we need to try to find a way to prevent those types of situations. We have to find a way to prevent that. As a people, as a whole, as everyone, we have to find a way to prevent that. I honestly think that maybe, as a community, we're talking about a community. Maybe it's time to start, asking some of our youth to sign up for the academy, for the police academy, and even the playing field. Maybe
um,
it's time to start getting on the other side, so that we can change from within instead of being outsiders and having that line drawn.
when all the things that I'm saying, at the end of the day, what I'm overall trying to say is, we all have different struggles too, and all lives matter, and we all go through our struggles. But we have to really, if you're really gonna try to help somebody or come up with a solution, really try to understand what that person, with that race, with that minority, what that individual is really presented against. Because, like we talked about how, as Hispanics, we have been able to protest peacefully and got some things advanced. For another race, it might not be that easy. For cops, because of these individuals that are committing crimes, murder, because that's what it is, a whole fraternity, a whole, system is getting judged. And that's not fair to the people that are really trying to do this job correctly and struggling. All lives matter,
Right.
both in this specific situation. I'm talking both. All lives matter, as far as cops, as far as white people, and as far as black people. Because
And
not
everything in between.
and everything in between. Because we can't. The problem is that we don't try to understand their struggles. We try to fix it to make ourselves feel better, how we would handle it for our situations. At the bottom of it, at the end of the day, I can't understand what Angel is going through, because he has 2 kids he has to take care of. He has this whole pandemic that's going on that can just infect his whole family without him knowing, without him just trying to do the right thing. Getting his kids food or getting his kids diapers can risk him and his family. For me, I have certain people that I'm taking care of at home because they're disabled, and me going out, even though I'm trying to do the right thing by going out to their appointments, going out for their medicine, going out, here and there, I might put them at risk. And that's a small sample compared to what an entire race has been going through for decades and centuries. I can't put myself in those shoes. I can't put myself in the shoes of a cop that is trying to do right by not only the human race, but by his badge. I don't understand that. I can't understand that. but we have to be able to help these individuals in these situations, and that's what I would want to get across. I'm not at all condoning what happened. I think all 4 of them were wrong because somebody could have said something.
Yeah.
You know, that person was restrained. That person had already shown that they would follow orders, and I have concluded that maybe it was a little bit personal in my bias because of what I've read, but we'll never know. But at the bottom line is that what happened was wrong. Yeah. And whether this person had, you know, underlying conditions, you didn't recognize it and you didn't try to get the help that that person needed on time. You didn't protect and you didn't serve that person right. You know, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter if your 12-hour shift, none of that. That's a personal choice you took.
Sorry about that. I kept trying to jump in at the right time, but it didn't really work out that way. Sorry, not so smooth. So very recently for me in the workplace, I witnessed somebody doing something very unsafe. And immediately I acted. I addressed the situation with the individual. I asked them very quickly to stop, to cease and desist their action. I brought them to me, told them what we should do instead, and acted accordingly. That's what I did in my particular situation.
They use a forklift rod?
If I had seen that, absolutely. If I had seen that and walked away from that, I am just as guilty for allowing it to happen as the person who is carrying out that action.
Great example.
And at the end of the day, I think that's exactly what we're dealing with. That's exactly what it is, and that's why people are pissed. There is no way that you are ever going to stop people from dying or being killed. That is difficult. You cannot. But what are the actions being taken after the fact, and how are things being taken care of? Because if I don't address my safety situation with that individual at that point in time, what does that tell that individual? That it's okay to do. What is going to happen a couple weeks from now? He'll do it again.
Not only that,
the cycle will continue.
Not only that, but you create a culture.
So something needs to be done.
Not only that, but you create a culture in that environment that I can get away with this.
Right.
If he did it, I could get away with this.
You create a safety net.
Yes.
You create a safety net for doing these things because there's absolutely zero reprimand. None. Getting paid to go ridiculous. Did you guys see the videos of protesters showing up to Officer Xavi's house?
Yes.
I haven't seen that. To his house?
So protesters showed up to his house. And he had about one camera, at least the camera that I shot. Or sorry, the camera.
Whoa, damn.
Sorry, the camera that I saw. The person counted over the person recording counted over 50 cops, just like going, like with the camera, you know, like to their faces across, you know. And of course, that person was skipping certain gaps because they couldn't just get to the front, but they counted over 50 cops. Wow. Guarding this man's house.
Hey guys. Hold on. Let me stop it right there. There's someone being really rude on the chat, and we might need to block him. It's getting a little out of hand. Do you guys know a gentleman by the name of Lobos, Bryant?
I will claim no affiliation. Borlos for life.
He's getting a little radical.
But yeah, man. I was telling my girlfriend earlier that there was a headline. So one thing I've been doing is I've been reading to her headlines that I see before reading the actual article and then researching it through like a legit source, right? So the last one that I had read to her was Derek, however you pronounce the last name, commits suicide in prison. So it turns out that he's on suicide watch, you know, and she didn't say it, but she kind of was like on the fence about it. Like, well, if he did it, so what, you know? But for me, it was like, that's a dead man walking already.
Yeah.
That's a zombie.
Yeah.
All you got to do is make him live out these years. There should be no reason why that man should go free. You know, whatever may happen to him in prison, I hope they don't kill him. That's my bias. I hope they don't kill him.
No, I agree.
I hope they don't let him take the easy way out. Let that dead man, let that ghost, that zombie walk out his remaining years.
Right. 100%.
You know? I think a suicide, if you let him do it or somebody takes him out in prison, that would be the easiest way out. You know, at the end of the day, you set off something that hopefully changes the world. And completely off topic, one question that I had for some of my close friends that I asked you, Eddie, Brian on the chat, Angel, I've asked you, 50 years from now, what are we going to look back and see as as something that's common 50 years from now? I don't know if I'm explaining that right. I've asked you what needs to change, what big thing is going to seem normal 50 years from now. And I think this is going to be a big turning point, because one thing that the United States of America hasn't had has been a revolution for 150 years? Mm-hmm. We're overdue. You have examples all over the world of countries as soon as 2012 completely revolutionizing. You had during your lifetime, Angel, Chewy's, your lifetime.
Right now,
you've seen countries fall. You've seen regimes fall. You've seen tyrants fall, and a new country come out of, in the Scandinavian section, in China, Hong Kong. For those people that don't know, Hong Kong governs itself, right, but they're still part of China, right? Mm-hmm. How did that come to be? Look it up. You've seen all these examples happen across the world, except in the United States. We've been overdue. And if this sets off to a better path for everybody as an individual, regardless of your race, regardless of your color, regardless of your first language, then I'm all for this man being a zombie and living out his 40, 50 years behind bars. In that sense, I will say thank you, but at the same time, I will say fuck you.
Yeah, man, it's tough, bro. It's tough to know, how to feel in that particular situation. Because what is justice? To what end, will the people be satisfied with any action whatsoever? What's gonna start getting people to be okay and start coming back inside? What measure does the government need to take? Because you've got a POTUS that at the moment is more concerned with his Twitter rant than what's going on around the world. He's putting down, legislating that these social media companies start to fact check, or rather reduce fact-checking for ridiculous claims that he's personally making on their websites, because he's continuously embarrassed day in and day out for the misinformation that he continues to spew. And it's terrible that that's where his focus is. It's absolutely awful.
2020 has been the perfect
do
storm.
Something better.
2020 has been the perfect
Speaking of
storm.
2020,
wow.
Speaking of 2020 being a ride, can we talk about how all of a sudden COVID is no longer an issue? Can we discuss the fact that no one is concerned with that?
So that's what.
Can we discuss the fact that over the last 5 days there hasn't been an increase in COVID cases? Can we discuss that?
Where? There has been an increase of cases where? Because that information can be screwed, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, because we as the county of Los Angeles, we are the best fitted in the nation to test people per capita, and that's because your president, my president, Eddie's president, Donald Trump, sent a Navy ship back in April to serve the Pacific coast, and it landed by LA. So per capita, in your community, in my community, Angel, Long Beach being a part of that LA community, LA County, we have the best testing per capita. So our numbers in Los Angeles and maybe in the surrounding areas is going down, but it doesn't mean that in the rest of the world it's actually not going up. China is experiencing a second wave. So are some countries in Europe. We haven't gotten to the second wave. So that's your information might be correct, but it might skew what's actually going outside of our environment and our surroundings.
Well, I mean, to touch on Angel's point, I know where we're headed here. It's the segment I've been waiting for. It could just be like this whole like plan. You know, Trump's biggest thing is, you know, it's money, it's our economy. So maybe it's the distraction here, right? Because we're in the middle. We're in the not in the eye of the storm, because we're in the fucking eye of the storm's calm, but we're in the shit storm. Let's call it that, right? Perfect storm. But anyways,
with the volcano going off and high winds.
Yeah. Point is, businesses are getting destroyed. You know, all this shit is happening. Everyone's forgetting about COVID. Everyone's like, let's go outside. And then this guy, you know, that's our president right now. You know, let's face it, most likely he's gonna, you know, serve a second term. It's finding somewhere to launder that money. You know, a word that's gonna go somewhere else. You know, we have to rebuild this country, so X amount of money is going to all these businesses, and it's just. I'll just come on and say we're talking about conspiracies now. That's just one of the conspiracies that's been thrown out there.
Let me throw out something else that people don't want to realize, that don't want to accept when change happens. At the end of the day, you're going to break some eggs. No matter who wins, somebody has to lose.
Right.
And sometimes, even as a loser, you still win. As stupid as that may have sounded to you, even as if you feel that you won sometimes, you're truly losing.
When you're not first, you're last.
Not true. Not true. Not in the real world.
Right.
Not in the real world. And you have many examples of this across the history. You know, we were big ass bullies in World War II, and we dropped an atomic bomb on somebody because they sneak attacked us, right? Mm-hmm. But that silenced the world. We weren't the first to discover nuclear power. We were the first to use it. If we didn't use it to show the people what was it capable of, and stopping Europe from speaking German right now in today's age, we would have never been able to check the world. Somebody has to lose for you to win, and sometimes both sides win. As dumb as it may sound, London after World War II rebuilt to be a country where parliament lost power, and now it's more of a democracy where royalty is more of a presentation, more of a just a cultural thing more than a powerful thing. You know, right. The queen doesn't say all, be all. You know, she's not. There's a democracy in form. They have a tax bracket that works for their country, where they provide education and healthcare for their people. But that happened because they had to rebuild. One thing, again, to my point, that we haven't had to do in really decades. We haven't had to rebuild. You know, the last time we had to rebuild with the Civil War, it was because white people didn't want to give up their slaves. Right?
No, right.
I might be wrong, but if I'm wrong, let me know.
I mean, BA, other Angel, that's been a guest on the show, is on there, and he loves history, so maybe he could touch on that soon.
I would love to go history head to head with Angel if that's true.
Oh man,
hit me up anytime, Angel.
We'll get him on here somehow right now when Chewy's off that phone. I'm just kidding.
But sorry, I forgot what the original point was. I'm a little wallow right now.
That train of thought just
go back to what was the last thing you guys were talking about?
Put us back on track, GA.
Story of my fucking life, my friend. That is exactly how things go in my everyday existence. Sometimes we go on so far we don't realize where the steam came from to begin with. But really, there's so much going on right now, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because I can hear the sirens from here.
Oh wow!
I'm really close to downtown Long Beach, guys, and I can hear everything here, which is part of the reason why I'm not joining you guys in the studio. I did not want to have to struggle to get back home.
Completely understandable.
By the way, Angel in the chat already says, I can already tell you that's been...
Say it again?
Angel in the chat says that he can already tell us that Spenny is wrong.
Come at me, bro. Come at me with facts, not with what you think happened. I'll come at you with facts.
He follows up by saying that we weren't the bullies. That we start. We weren't the bullies to start. We became bullies from that.
Oh no! Going into that situation, we were the bullies, because
We were trying.
it's like
Uh-huh.
if your kid punched you earlier in the day and he thinks he's grown now, when you know damn well when you're ready, you could just slap him back into place, Angel. So don't tell me we weren't the bully. We allow certain things to happen, but when it was time to put the foot down to crack the neck, I'm not talking about stepping on somebody's neck. I'm talking about cracking the neck. It was a done deal. It was a done deal. There's a reason we were so successful in sneaking into Tokyo, or into Japan undetected. If you really want to go into the details, it was all calculated, my boy. I wish you could see me.
This he can't see you. This angel right here. Get us back on track, man. Where did that steam come from? We're just like getting distracted over here.
I'll tell you where that's nah.
No. I think what we were trying to get to is the segment that you talked about where we were discussing possible conspiracy theories in regards to the situation. So I'll go back to what we talked about originally in the opening segment, where we were discussing the actual video of this gentleman, and I would encourage you guys, if you can, to take a minute to search it and look at that and really see, these EMTs or supposed EMTs that came into this situation, grab this gentleman the way that they did, to put on a gurney and to just shove him inside of the ambulance. Again, nobody checked his vitals. Nobody did what they were supposed to do as a process to make sure that they took care of or cared for the victim. They treated him like a piece of meat, as if they knew that that was going to be the case, and they reacted accordingly. So either they were tipped off that this guy was dead already, or they were, they already knew that this was going to be the case when they showed up on scene and handled it that way. So it's interesting to me to think about it in that light, that this man was possibly, publicly executed for what agenda, I don't know, but it's definitely worth a thought.
You said for what agenda? To me, it's the whole, the re-election coming up and the whole economy, because those are his voters. That's Trump's biggest numbers. It all comes down to money. And if you want to dig deeper, you, Angel, sent me videos where a parent cop came out and started smashing windows. Apparent people that weren't part of the Black Lives Matter movement were tagging on buildings, and they were begging them to stop. And it seemed like they were heavily outnumbered, but yet they kept going. Just to paint this picture of, look, these are all bad people, and it's all right. Here, we're gonna help you rebuild the money, while this guy that's that's potentially and gonna be reelected, most likely gonna be reelected, look like the hero. As dumb as his fucking tweets are, and as stupid as his interviews are, business people don't see that side of it. They see that money that's coming in. So I mean, to me, that's where the conspiracy comes down to.
It's just money.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to money. They're monetizing it in a way, and there's been so much video footage that I've seen where Antifa activists are being shown busting down these walls, and, like you said, tagging and doing all these things, and the black protesters are doing the best they can to try to keep everything peaceful, and it's disturbing. It's disturbing to see that there are people amongst the crowd in undercover uniforms, disguising themselves, or rather showing themselves, displaying themselves with white armbands along their left arm,
Yeah.
so that they can identify one another for being on the same team. They've got headpieces, not Bluetooth, not AirPods, not anything of that nature. Some CIA type of earpieces going from their backpacks through to their ear, so that they can keep in close communication to each other about how to move people forward. I'm watching video after video of white people shoving minorities in towards police officers to start violence and then running in the opposite direction. So they're pushing people in to fight the fight and then running from the altercation as if they weren't there, only to get other people riled up in the back and push them towards. That is a cowardly move. A cowardly move. And as I say that, I can now hear the helicopter surrounding my neighborhood.
Yeah. Well,
Very
apparently,
unsettling.
Angel. Apparently, curfew starts at 6 today.
So in Long Beach, I think it's at 7,
For the city of Long Beach as well.
and in Los Angeles, it's
Actually, I
8 p.m.
noticed,
curfew.
This is LA County curfew.
See here.
It changed?
LA County. LA City is 8, but LA County is 6.
Oh damn.
That that is correct. For Long Beach, it's going to be 8 p.m. tonight, and for the county of Los Angeles, or citywide, I should say, is 6 p.m. So just a few more minutes for 6 p.m. Interesting.
Oh damn. Hey, can you do me a favor,
You think
Angel?
that's going to stop anybody?
You
I can't.
you
What's up, man?
you sound like you're one of those helicopter people. Can you give us a traffic report real quick?
Oh man, I wish, dude. I wish I could see what was going on out there right now. It's a little too close to home, to be honest with you. I don't think I have to go far.
I think I'm bunking with Chewy tonight. Just so you know. I didn't plan this exactly. Actually, I have a whole nother podcast to go after this.
That's cool.
It's cool. Chewy says it gets cold.
I already have a bunch of employees calling me because they can't make it to work tonight because they're in Long Beach downtown and they can't get out of their house.
Oh damn.
That's why my phone kept ringing.
Well, so if I can just say that, it's funny because during COVID, we were being given letters for those of us that had to work. We didn't know how serious this was going to get in regards to keeping people at home or the safer at home order. We didn't know how serious it would be. So we distributed letters to all personnel so that they could carry on their person, in their vehicle, if they were to be stopped. Again, we didn't know how serious it was going to be, to show that they were out and about to work, as essential employees. So it's interesting to me that now, that letter would probably come in handy to a lot of people, right about now, to be able to get to where they need to go. The question is, do you want to be in an area like that with all this going on? And it's interesting to me that it might, it's going to slow down businesses more so. So now we just got, into phase 3 for, small businesses. I personally know someone with a barbershop that is highly anticipating an opening starting tomorrow, and is fearfully camping at her establishment right now to assure that her windows don't get broken in. And it's fucked. It's really it's so tough. It's tough. It's tough to have an unbiased opinion for everything that's going on right now, because there's so much information that can draw you any which way, and it's difficult. But we are in trying times right now, and I think unity is key.
I feel like that's kind of buying into the conspiracy I gave, bro. Excuses for business not being able to be run, and losing that money, quote unquote, throwing the quote fingers.
Correct.
So I'm feeling pretty good about my conspiracy. I think I'm about to win this one.
I'll give it to you, man. At the end of the day, money makes the world go around, right? And there's just too many coincidences, that are happening, and there's too much going on right now.
Right.
That's crippling our system, crippling our economy. There's way too much, and it's difficult. It's difficult to move forward. It's hard. Seems like every day we took a step forward, and now we're just completely somersaulting backwards 8 feet, from the position we worked so hard to get to. But I think that honestly, we asked earlier if it was worth it. Fucking A, it's worth it as long as something changes. But if nothing changes, further action will be further action will be needed. And what steps will we take next? Where will we go? And what answers can we hope to get moving forward?
And the reason I'm all over the
I
place
don't
is
know.
the same reason why I don't have an answer for you. I just don't know. I just don't know where you go from here. I really, truly don't. All I can do is look at it from the outside. If there is something I can do personally to help, I would help the cause. But me going down there and looting is not going to help. Me going down there and protesting, getting arrested, being away from the people that need me isn't going to help. And I just don't know. I'm all over the place with these things. I'm trying to get as many facts as possible. I'm legitimately trying to fact check stuff before I consider it into my opinion. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that even leads me to think that I have a solution for this or really can help in this scenario. I really don't. I really don't. All I can do is just learn from it. And if it comes across to where it affects my life, then try to deal with it with the best scenario possible as far as how to act, how to handle the situation. But as far as any kind of change, I don't think it's coming anytime soon. And if you're looking at this the same way and you want change immediately, that's not the solution.
Mm-mm.
There is no change possible that can happen instantly.
Nope.
That will be for the greater good. So if you take away something from me today, is just that whatever this leads to, I hope it's progress that you can wait on. As much as you listening might not want to hear that, it's going to take time. The only thing we can do is use this as an example of what we don't want to reoccur or become a norm. Hopefully this leads to something better. And if this man rotting in prison and George Floyd dying leads to that, then it, at the end of the day, it was part of God's plan, right?
Maybe.
But if it
I'm
leads,
sorry, who?
if it leads to nothing, then we're just, I don't know, then we're just lost. And you should expect more uprisings. If you can't sit back as a lawmaker, as somebody in power and listen, then you are the problem. But change is gonna take time. Going back to the topics, I think we do need a reform from inside of how cops get dealt with and how they're supported. I think that's a big key part in stopping these kinds of things from happening and screening these people. Going off topic, there was an example from last year, and I'll try to find the video again where they did the report so I can post it with you guys, where there was a cop selling in his house, and the realtor brought African American to walk the house,
No way.
and this who had like Confederate flags and the swastika visibly posted in his house. So this couple or this person reported the cop to their station, and he stayed on the force. No investigation was done. He had like 10 complaints in like 6 years on the force, and so stuff like that is being ignored, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, see,
That type of fraternity.
I feel like in that particular situation, even me here now, I don't have a position of power like that of an officer or anything of that nature. But my views and opinions, although they are protected by the First Amendment, if they don't tie into the values that are represented by the company that I work for, I could find myself without a job. And I don't think that police officers should be any different, especially if they've got that sort of. They shouldn't be allowed to be police officers if that's the type of person that they are. That's just not right. You're going.
And it's not so much maybe that they don't need to be cops. It's just because you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of press and all that. But just at least pay attention to the fact that they have so many complaints against them, that their outrage or that their excess of force is against a certain type of individual or a certain type of,
Right.
person. Pay attention to those details. again, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Everybody in this country, regardless of their beliefs, has a chance or should have an opportunity to get whatever job they want. If they're abusing their power or they're using their morals to contradict what they're supposed to do according to their job, then that's how you discipline them as a company, as a police officer. If somebody's willing to risk their life to protect the community they live in, then so be it. But if this person is going to be prejudiced, racist, or exophobic towards a certain type of race, skin tone, or color, or whatever it may be, then you need to take the proper ties and cut them, or you need to take the proper steps and cut ties with this person. Yeah. I know people don't want to hear that. I know that may be like, what the fuck? But yeah, no matter what somebody's views is, they deserve the same opportunity as you do. And if they want to show their true colors and not follow what their job description is, then you deal with them as you should, or as you can.
Although I'm grateful that Spenny's here, I'm sorry that Spenny cut you off. Angel, if you want to go ahead.
No, no worries at all. I was actually just preparing closing statements and wanted to know if you had anything that you wanted to end this episode with, to share with our slowly growing audience.
I'm going to be just a basic one, so I'll go first. Just always remember, at the end of the day, there's only one race. That's the human race. And whatever it takes to make everyone realize that and not see color, I'm with it. Yeah, it's basic. Yeah, go ahead.
For me, it's the same thing. Just we're always gonna have problems in this world. Some more severe, some more captivating than others. Just understand that what works to solve the problem for you isn't necessarily gonna work for the other people involved. Certain things need to happen within the community of cops for this to be resolved. Certain things need to happen within the community of African Americans for this to be advanced. And those are two different things, It's tragic what happened. It shouldn't have happened. It happens too often on and off camera. And no matter how much we sympathize with this race of African Americans, we're never going to understand that pain. And just, if you're going to go out there and loot, then be honest with yourself and be honest with the people around you that you're going to go out there for yourself. Right. And don't try to pretend that you're trying to help a cause by putting some kind of shade on it, Going back to your point, Angel, earlier, you have people secretly going in there. I'm not going to judge those people, because just how there's people of my skin color, of your skin color, of African Americans going out there just to see the world burn, other races, as privileged as they may be, want to see the same thing. I'm not going to hold those people accountable, because the actions of the minorities are telling those people, this is what I can get away with. And if you want to get away with something, is get away with change, get away with protest if you're really about it. Don't judge everybody off this incident. Understand their struggles too, and understand there's bad apples on both sides. And we have to weed out those bad apples from every culture, every race, every skin color, everything. We don't need all that. We don't need to be divided. You don't need to say, in my opinion, you don't need to say Black Lives Matter. Of course they matter. But yours does too. Don't try to divide us in a moment where we need to be together. Because at the end of the day, they might call us minorities, but we have bigger numbers than they do. And the biggest threat that we can create to them is uniting together. That's the biggest thing that we can do. That's the most powerful thing we can do.
Strength by numbers.
At the end of the day, if we can just come together and stop selecting, I'm gonna quote Killer Mike. We're fighting over who our master is. And that's where we, as a society, as minorities, are failing. We need to come at the people that are supposed to follow the rules. We need to come at them with, this is what we want. If you can't do it, then I need to find somebody that can. Don't tell me what you can do for me. Let me tell you what you're going to do for me. Until we get to that point as a society, not as Hispanics, not as Japanese, not as Asians, not as black people. If we can come to understanding as a people, this is what we need, who's going to give it to us, we're always going to be minorities. The numbers will never matter unless we can find somebody that's going to do what we need as a society.
Mic drop.
Quite the closing statement. I I was at the edge of my seat. Thank you for that. But I have to say that for me, my advice to everyone out there listening is, we're talking about, what lives matter, and I think that the Black Lives Matter movement can easily, somebody put the light on me today. Shout out to one of my dear friends. I won't mention his name because I'm not sure he'll be comfortable with that or not. But started sharing the hashtag that Black Lives Matter too, and that is not just that Black lives alone matter. They just also want to be included in the fact that they matter. And it was interesting to me because it does kind of put a different spin on the hashtag in that it's not that they're just trying to say that they matter and no one else does. They just want to say that they also matter. It's well established that everyone else matter. It's well established that blue lives matter. It's well established. We know that already. History shows us that. But history shows us that Black lives have not mattered in many instances for a long time. And even now, continuously are showing that they don't matter. They're being used and abused whatever for whatever it is that they would like, whatever narrative that they're trying to push, they're being used for that to promote fear and control, and it's upsetting. So Black Lives Matter too is the best thing that I've heard today, because it is a cry for help to say that we're here too and we're important, and I support that 1000%. I understand that that's difficult and not computable. Thank you, gentlemen.
No, dude,
And
I've
I
never
will say this
Sorry, go ahead.
from us here at Layman's World, where we know absolutely nothing about anything, and we talk all things we know nothing about. There is one thing I do know, is that empathy is probably going to be the strongest trait that anybody could have at this point in time, because that's what's going to help us to understand the issues that we might not have to suffer from. That's the biggest thing. We cannot help anyone until we try our best to understand the situation for what it is. So to everyone, I would say, please, please be kind to one another. Be kind to one another, because you don't know what someone else might be struggling with. You don't know if they have a family member affected. You don't know if they were on the front lines a day or two prior just because they showed up to work the next day. You just don't know. Please be kind to each other, because you never know what kind of situation you might end up in if you're not. Let's take what's going on in the world into consideration with all our actions over the next week, and hopefully things will start to look up and things will start to stop looking like what's going on behind me. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'd like to thank Spenny for coming into the studio today.
Thanks for
Sorry
having me.
that I couldn't be there. Spenny, please tell people where they can find you.
I am usually on Nag and The Hangover. If you are a fan of the LA Galaxy, as supporters, we have started a league called Liga G96, where we're just competing against each other to try to get ourselves through this tough time. And I want to give a shout out to the organizers. I'm sorry I don't know everybody's name, but I do want to give a special shout out to Manny. Besides the fact that he is the organizer of our team, the Borrachos AC, he was really committed to trying to get this going. And in this week, I think it was a big deal. As minimal as it may seem to the rest of the world, I think it was a big deal for our Galaxy community, because last night we started our season, and not only were people tuning in to 3 games at a time, but we had people, we had 20, 22 people playing at the same time, right, on top of 50, 60 people watching online. So we were able to keep people indoors watch our games, and just give them a sense of belonging, you know, for this difficult time, whether it's the riots or whether it's the pandemic that's going on. I was glad I was a part of that. And you can find me on Nag News, The Hangover. My Twitter overall is Spenny Bayless, at Spenny Bayless. I'm on Twitter. If you want to fact check me on any history, you want to go at it history, let's do it. If you want to talk shit about my team, I'll give you facts of how we killed your team or anything like that. If you want to catch us on FIFA, hit up either one of us if you want to join a team, whatever it may be, man.
All right. You can find me on Instagram as Eddie_Nags, on Twitter, Eddie Nags, all together. And just love one another. And that's I'm going to leave it with, because Angel over here hit the nail on the head. And, yeah, man, I got no more to say.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I am Angel, King of Mediocrity Martinez. This is Layman's Word. We hope that you guys will join us again next week. Hopefully, we will have something else to talk about that is less heavy on our hearts. Until then, from everybody that was here today, including super producer Chewy in the house. Thank you so much for putting this on. Big shout out. Take care of yourselves. Let's try to express some love this week, please.
Peace, y'all. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.